Tonight is Thursday, March 28th, 2024. Before we begin the meeting this evening, I'd like to take a moment to call for a moment of silence to recognize the 5 lives lost to senseless acts of violence this week. On Sunday, 18-year-old Jason Jenkins was stabbed and murdered while on his shift at Rockford Walmart. He was a senior at Auburn High School. His life was tragically ended much too soon, and we remember him this evening. And on Wednesday, in the middle of the afternoon, 4 more innocent lives were stolen from violent attacks and stabbings that occurred in a residential area of southeast Rockford. 23-year-old Jacob Schabach and 63-year-old Ramona Schabach, 49-year-old Jason Larson, a veteran and 25-year United States Postal Service mail carrier, in the middle of his route. 15-year-old Jenna Newcomb, who died while protecting her sister and her friend. We want to remember all those lives lost this evening. Several others were injured in this incident as well. Neighbors, bystanders, and members of law enforcement were at the scene, doing their part to keep themselves and others safe. I especially want to thank and recognize our first responders, especially our sheriff's office, the coroner's office, Rockford Fire, and Rockford Police, in acting so quickly to end the threat. They did an extraordinary job. So please join me in a moment of silence to honor the 5 members of our community who lost their lives this week due to violence. Please stand. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not only is tomorrow Good Friday, but it is also the National Vietnam War Veterans Day. And I would like to have a moment of silence to remember those who have lost their lives fighting for our freedoms throughout the Vietnam War.
Please stand. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, so moving on. Our invocation and pledge allegiance this evening is by Board Member John Sweetie. Please stand.
Dear God, we come before you tonight as a public body to do people's business. We come to you tonight in particular with the heaviest of hearts, as we here on earth try to make sense of such heinous acts of violence perpetrated against another human being here in our city. We pray that you comfort parents, friends, the brothers, the sisters, all the loved ones of those that perished in these senseless acts in the last week and a half. Also that you be there for those that are recovering in hospitals around our county now, that be there for the first responders who have to deal with trauma and are the heroes that save lives. And it's just unbelievable, God, but just try to make it best you can for those affected. Those we pray. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Are there any agenda adjustments this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no agenda changes.
Very good, thank you. Clerk Gummow, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. We will start with Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McDonald. Mr. Neighbors. Mr. Penny. Mr. Salgado. Mr. Scroll. Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Thompson. Mr. Webster. Mr. Arena. Mr. Booker. Mr. Butita. Mrs. Crosby. Ms. Fellers. Mrs. Gorel. Mr. Guevara. Ms. Hansard. Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Lindmark. Thank you all. Chairman, 19 board members present, 1 board member absent.
Very good, thank you. We do have a quorum this evening. So next, under awards, presentations, public hearings, and public participation, we do have a presentation this evening. It's by the Winnebago County Emergency Management Coordinator, Mr. Trent Brass. It's regarding the Winnebago County Migrant Contingency Plan. Mr. Brass.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, County Board members. My name's Trent Brass. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for Winnebago County. And today I've been asked to come and present a quick overview of the Migrant Contingency Plan that has been developed to kind of help the county in handling asylum seekers in the event we have a situation like we did on December 30th. So just a quick kind of overview of it. This plan kind of came as a result of December 30th. As many of you know, we had an airplane arrive at the Rockford Airport, pretty much unannounced with that. From that interaction with the company that had chartered the airplane, with getting the charter buses with that, that was our first interaction kind of with this situation where we had some asylum seekers sent up to the Rockford area. And with that night, we were able to kind of help facilitate getting those individuals from the airplane onto the charter buses and helping that, the movement, pass-through movement, into the Chicago area. So part of it with this plan, the guidance for designing this plan has been based on the state of Illinois' Emergency Management Agency. So the state of Illinois says with the ordinances and the permits that the city of Chicago kind of imposed back in November, some of the outlying counties might experience some influx of individuals being brought to their county with that. So the guidance that the state of Illinois provided was, we want you to help facilitate that onward movement into the designated area of what the city or the state is calling the landing zone. The landing zone in the city of Chicago is where all the essential services are to help these asylum seekers. That's where the food needs are being met, the sheltering, and resources such as that. So with that, the state says this is where we're gonna dedicate the area to help those individuals. So the plan basically kind of is following the guidelines of the state with that. So in the event we have a situation here in Winnebago County where we have individuals, maybe, let's say they get abandoned or stranded like at a truck stop off of I-90, or a situation where the plane comes into Rockford and there's no means to get them into the landing zone, our goal with the plan is to help facilitate that onward movement for those individuals. So the plan is kind of designed around the idea of helping them get to like a respite center. Basically, it's an area where it would be like a warming center, cooling center, bathrooms with that, help with the interim food needs that might be needed. But our main goal is to kind of coordinate the transportation to get these individuals into the Chicago landing zone. With that, though, there's a lot of coordination that goes with it. It's communicating with our partners in with the state, within the city of Chicago, to let them know, hey, we have this situation. We're working on the transportation to help facilitate the movement into the city of Chicago. Along with that, we have local community partners that have been brought into helping with the plan to help us out in the event we need the food needs or the temporary respite center with that. So that, in a nutshell, that is kind of what the plan is. Again, it's to kind of help facilitate that onward movement, to get the people the resources that they need to help them out. And so from that December 30th, another thing we did discover was there was the need for kind of a humanitarian thing, but care packages. So one group did reach out, and we're working with a church group that's kind of handling the care package part of it there. So again, if we ever had some incident like that, we can actually call that church group to help bring the coats and some warm clothing for those individuals. So that's kind of what the plan is with that. And then again, our goal is to get them to the Chicago landing zone, which is where the state has designated as. So, thank you.
Completed? Very good. Is there any questions for Mr. Brass? Any of the board members? Okay, very good. None? Thank you, Mr. Brass.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next, we have several speakers this evening under public participation. So I'm going to read a brief statement here. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, zoning committee, or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. So tonight, I'm just going to take from number 2 to number 7, and then I'm going to have Lori Thompson speak last. So we have them in order here. So the first speaker is Dean Barker. This is for the election validity. Could Dean come forward, please?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dean Barker. I live in Winnebago County, and I've been a resident of Illinois for 66 years. I'm a volunteer for United Sovereign Americans and not an official spokesperson. Today I come to you as a concerned citizen of the state of Illinois, sharing alarming information about the state's voter database uncovered through thousands of hours of research conducted by our highly qualified and credentialed data team. While the numbers are staggering and somewhat difficult to comprehend, one thing is clear: they don't add up. Just like your checkbook must balance, so must our votes. If you had $10,000 fewer dollars in your bank account than you deposited, you'd certainly want to know what happened. And if a company had a significant discrepancy in their books, they would most certainly conduct an audit. In fact, yearly audits are required by the law for all public companies. Our audit of the 2022 election, using only official data provided by the state election officials, shows that the 2022 election may not have been accurate or legally compliant. We are not saying one candidate won over another or that any election should be overturned. The state's official data from certified elections shows that the votes as counted were not all valid and accurate under the law. Today, we will present with you a resolution demanding an end to the inaccuracy and uncertainty of our elections, along with a summary of our findings and the laws that apply. We are happy to meet with you to have time to go over this information, including more detail about specific findings. If you have questions that I cannot answer now, I will commit to getting you the answer in writing from the United Sovereign Americans executive team as soon as possible. The data and our request for the investigation has been shared with the state and county officials and election certifiers. It is essential that you, as our representatives, make it clear that these issues must be considered seriously. Today we come to you, some of our closest elected representatives, for support and action. We're asking that you listen to the resolution, ask questions if you have them, and then vote promptly for its passage. If you need us on your agenda to pass, we are asking today to be invited back. Your action on this resolution will illustrate your dedication and support to the concerns of the constituents of your county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brian Jones. You can come forward, please.
My name is Brian Jones. I live in Winnebago County and have been a resident for 64 years. I am a volunteer of the United Sovereign Americans and not a spokesperson. I present to you a resolution for a legally valid 2024 general election. Whereas it is recognized civil right in the United States that every citizen have a free and fair election, and the right of suffrage can be denied by debasement or dilution of the weight of a citizen's vote just as effectively as by wholly prohibiting the free exercise of the franchise. And that case is Reynolds v. Sims, 377 U.S. 533 in 1964. Also, whereas it is an affirmative duty of our election officials to comply with all federal and state laws governing administration and procedure of our elections, thereby guaranteeing our elections are accurate and free from distortion or manipulation. Congress seeks to guard the election of the members of Congress against any possible unfairness by compelling everyone concerned in holding the election to a strict and scrupulous observance of every duty devolved upon him while so engaged. The evil intent consists in disobedience of the law. In Re Coy 127 U.S. 731, 1888. Whereas our constitutional system of government only works when the worth of the honest ballots is not diluted by invalid ballots procured by corruption, and assuring accuracy can only be achieved through fealty to those governing the following four tenets of an election. The voter rolls must be accurate, and that reference is the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Votes counted must be from eligible voters, and that reference is U.S. Constitution 14th Amendment. Also, the number of votes counted must equal the number of voters who voted. Also, there can be no more than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error by the voting system, and that is reference to Help America Vote Act 2002. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jane Carroll.
My name is Jane Carroll. I live in Winnebago County and have been a resident of Illinois for 75 years. I am a volunteer for United Sovereign Americans and not an official spokesperson. I will continue with the resolution. Whereas an open source audit of the Illinois 2022 general election conducted by Illinois state citizens has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that violate both federal and state laws, including 4,032,801 ineligible or uncertain registration violations found within the Illinois State Voter Roll database of 8.9 million citizens. Again, that was 4,032,801. 589,985 votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrations, 27,491 more votes counted than voters who voted in the 2022 general election. No one knows who cast them. 589,952 apparent voting violations in excess of the legal standard of system accuracy for a valid federal election. For the 2022 election, this number, the legal standard, was 33, and yet we had 589,952. Certification, as defined by law, an attestation of accuracy and compliance, appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. Whereas these findings trample accuracy requirements of voting systems for a federal election, for a voting system, accuracy is defined as the ability of the system to capture, record, store, consolidate, and report the specific selections and absence of selections made by the voter for each ballot position without error. Whereas it must be known factually and provably that the intent of the voters is accurately represented by election results before certification can be lawfully conducted. Certification of an election that varies from the law is an abridgment of the civil rights of the citizens, a fraud ab initio.
Ms. Carroll, your 3 minutes is completed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jody Zitko.
Good evening. My name's Jody Zitko, and I live in Kane County. And I've been a resident of the state of Illinois for 58 years. I am a volunteer with United Sovereign Americans, and I'm a co-director of the Illinois chapter. I'll pick up where Jane left off. Ab initio, United States versus Throckmorton, 98 U.S. 61, 1878. Whereas Illinois' 2022 general election appears to have been invalid, depriving us of guaranteed protection of our natural rights under a government duly and provably chosen by us, the American people, resulting in an incalculable damage to our families, our way of life, and the fabric of these United States. Therefore, we call upon our representatives to provide relief to the people in the assurance of domestic tranquility by joining us in demanding a valid 2024 general election that upholds these existing laws and equitable principles of law. 1, proof of citizenship and identity to register to vote, not anonymous attestation. 2, documented chain of custody on every ballot, regardless of entry source, maintained from vote to vote count to final canvass. 3, secure ballots, similar to currency. In the event imaging technology is used for tabulation, the security features must be verifiable in the image. 4, voter rolls certified accurate 30 days prior before start of early voting. Voters added after that date must bring proof of citizenship, identity, and address in person to a qualified official at each polling place. 5, systems, machines, security measures, procedures, infrastructure, policy, and conduct are required to be compliant with the laws regarding certification, testing operational validity, and operational implementation. Any breach will require an adequately strong audit to verify measured outcomes were within 10% of the margin of victory at a 95% probability. 6, a scientifically randomized audit of real ballots must be performed and meaningfully witnessed, providing the error rate is smaller than 10% of the margin of victory. Otherwise, a fully witnessed and hand recount must be performed. All parties with more than 10% of the vote shall have full and effective observational rights. 7, election operations and systems must maintain provable and end-to-end chain of custody from voter to vote to final canvass, including auditability and witness transfer with paper records. And 6, adjudication must be signed off by party witnesses and candidate witnesses with full and effective observation rights. Candidates must be allowed immediate access to ballots, images, and CVRs. Candidates may agree to use party witnesses solely at their discretion.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ken Zitko.
I have handouts for the board that go along with the presentation. Hi, my name is Ken Zitko. I live in Kane County and have lived in Illinois for 51 years. I'm also a director for the Illinois chapter of the United Sovereign Americans. I'll continue the resolution. 9, end-to-end audits must be allowed by qualified, insured, and bonded security, forensic, or financial auditors. These shall not be personnel from within the election system. Reconciliation will include the vote count, ballots, adjudication, CVRs, voter count, custody transfer, and all other paper and electronic systems, including system logs if applicable. The aggrieved party must be allowed to select their own auditor. 10, if the total of all unique variances above is more than 10% of the margin of victory, a new election must be held in the state for those candidates affected unless it can be provably corrected by a manual hand recount with full review of records. And 11, waiver of requirement is not allowed. Only end-to-end system compliance can guarantee the intent of the people is accurately recorded. Just obey the law. That concludes our powerfully written resolution outlining massive inaccuracies in our 2022 election from registration through certification. In it, you heard us ask for meaningful remedies to be provided to proactively protect the validity of the 2024 general election. In fact, the resolution also cited many U.S. Supreme Court precedents that support the need for such actions. Laws are being ignored. Bottom line, the checkbook is not balancing, and we need to understand why. The voter system, which controls our most vitally important right, the right of suffrage, is not capable of producing an accurate, trustworthy result. Do you think that these anomalies within our election system, which are part of our national security infrastructure, should continue to be ignored? How much is it costing us not to fix this problem? How much is it costing our GDP, our military, our foreign policy, our health, our self-esteem of our children and young people, and how much is it costing our dignity to keep fighting with each other? The cost is immeasurable. So again, we ask you to invite us back and have us on the agenda so we can answer questions and pass this resolution. Our website showcasing our initiative nationwide has some great videos that explain the anomalies and apparent violations of law that are found here in this state and in others across the country. The website is uniteforfreedom.com. That's unite, the number 4, freedom.com. I encourage you to check it out and learn more about our group and our project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Babe Polksties.
My name is Babe Polksties. I live in Cook County and have been a resident of Illinois for 62 years. I am a volunteer for United Sovereign Americans and not an official spokesperson. What you heard tonight is the culmination of thousands of hours of work by our highly qualified and credentialed volunteer data teams from this state and across the country. Let's step back for a second and look at the big picture. High numbers of Americans, including many right here in Winnebago County, have questions about the trustworthiness of our elections. I think we can all agree that we wish this was not the case, but official data shows these concerns are valid, and the law says they are important in securing our liberty. At the same time, government representatives at all levels are not being transparent or responsive to what our citizen audits have found. Our right to vote for our elected representatives in legally valid and transparent elections is the foundation on which our constitutional federal republic was established. That right has been bravely protected over the past 2.5 centuries by the sacrifices of our brothers, fathers, mothers, sisters, and for some of us, our children. You on this board tonight have a chance to show everyone who defended American liberty and the citizens you represent that you value it also by passing this resolution demanding a valid election for 2024. We appreciate your commitment to the constituents of this county, as well as the time and attention you have given us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lori Thompson. Come forward, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a board-certified forensic pediatric nurse practitioner. For 30 years, my specialty has been the health and safety of kids, including victims of violence. Rape and assault is especially painful for kids, and kids often cry because of pain. Kids are tortured, beaten into comas, burned with steam irons, drop-kicked, thrown into walls, plunged face down into flush toilets, held under hot water, and burned with cigarettes, all so they would stop crying. I have told a 9-year-old while she played with dolls, the funny feeling in her tummy is a baby growing in there. I have diagnosed preschool kids with gonorrhea, late-stage syphilis in a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old with hepatitis C after a released convicted felon raped her, and have sent kids to the OR who needed emergency surgery to repair their genitalia. These are kids in Winnebago County. Trafficking is nothing new here. Our location between Milwaukee, Chicago, and Madison is a convenient stop for traffickers. In my work, I have encountered kids who arrive undocumented. Many arrive alone or with a guardian. They do not speak English and have no permanent address, making them extremely vulnerable. And traffickers and guardians know that. They are not reported missing because no one is missing them. Despite the best laid plans, we cannot promise safety to asylum seekers. The dangers are escalating in our community for all of us. Imagine being 7 years old in unfamiliar surroundings with people who hurt you and trying to explain the violent sexual assaults you have endured. Now imagine you can't speak or understand our language. Actual numbers of survivors are much higher than reported statistics because many just want help to thrive. Monetary resources is what you're voting on tonight, but the actual crisis is the lack of trained mental health workers. 2 stabbing incidents in 4 days indicate a mental health crisis in Winnebago County. Those who do not suffer from mental illness do not commit crimes of violence. What is the plan to screen new arrivals for mental stability? Winnebago County has excellent starting places for those who need help. However, like teachers and nurses, there is no surplus of mental health workers. The burnout is quick and the turnover is high. I have sacrificed my health and risked my safety to help these victims. No amount of money will create people who want to work with critically injured or murdered kids on a daily basis. This is not the American dream, nor can we promise unlimited resources to achieve that dream. This is not a financial, housing, or partisan issue. The reality is, regardless of motive or desire to help, we don't have the manpower. As a forensic specialist, these are not my opinions, they are facts. Voting against this resolution is making a promise we can't keep. To do so is unsafe, immoral, unhealthy, and unethical, the exact opposite of help. The big picture should be clear. Voting against this resolution is voting for child trafficking and increased violence. Thank you.
Thank you. So that completes our speakers for the evening. Move on our agenda, approval of minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve the February 22nd, 2024 minutes and lay over the March 14th, 2024 minutes. Motion by Mr. Guevara, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion on the approval and lay over the minutes? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the approval or the layover of the minutes? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Next is the consent agenda. May I entertain a motion to approve the raffle report and the auditor's report? We have a motion by Mr. Guevara and a second by Mr. McCarthy. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the consent agenda? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I request that if we could caucus, the Democratic Party could caucus for 5 minutes or so.
You have a motion to recess for 5 minutes?
Please.
Is there a second? A second by Ms. Fellers. Is there any discussion on the motion to recess? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're recessed for 5 minutes.
local. None of it was local. It was.
Could the board members please take a seat?
Well, we need a motion to reconvene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to motion to back into,
There's a motion to reconvene the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Guevara. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of reconvening the meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are reconvened into our regular scheduled meeting. Moving on to number 8 are the appointments. Per county board rules, board chairman appointments require a 30-day layover unless there is a suspension of the rule. Tonight for the Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board, the annual compensation is none. Placing up Margie Lindmark, that is a new appointment to serve the remainder of a 4-year term expiring January 2028. Moving on to reports of standing committees. The first is the Finance Committee. Who's taking finance? Mr. Salgado.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 6 items tonight. The first one's a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025 budget policy, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Guevara. Is there any discussion, Mr. Salgado?
No, just real quick, there was no changes to the policy itself. Pretty much the same structure from last year, with the exception of the calendar, pretty much.
Very good. Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to the resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution setting the salaries and other benefits of the county auditor, county coroner, and the county board chairman, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Huffman. Is there any discussion, Mr. Salgado?
Nope. just
Any board
practice.
member discussion? Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next one's an ordinance of approval of budget amendment for the reimbursable technology expenditures. This is to be laid over.
Item number 4 will be laid over.
But I'd like to suspend the rules if I may and vote on this tonight.
It's a motion to suspend by Mr. Salgado, and there's a second by Mr. Guevara. Are there any opposition to the suspension of rule this evening for this ordinance? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present, and the rules are suspended. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Therefore, I move to approve ordinance for approval for the budget amendment for reimbursable technology expenditures.
Motion by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Guevara. Is there any discussion on this ordinance? None from the chair?
No.
Okay. Are there any board members opposed to the passage of this ordinance? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take items 5, 6, and 7 all together. I'll read them one individually, but I would like to move on them and vote on them all together. The first one's a resolution authorizing settlement of claim against the County of Winnebago entitled Kai McCoy. Second one's a resolution authorizing settlement claim against the County of Winnebago entitled Williams James versus Winnebago County. And the next one is the resolution authorizing settlement claim against the County of Winnebago entitled Eric Battelle versus Winnebago County, and I so move to
Motion
approve
by
those.
Mr. Salgado for number 5, number 6, and number 7, second by Mr. Thompson. Ms. Crosby, is there any discussion on this resolution, Mr. Salgado?
There is not, it's just a workman's comp.
Okay, any board member discussion? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to the passage of these 3 resolutions? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present.
That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Salgado.
Chairman.
Moving on to the zoning committee, we have Mr. Jim Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. Your zoning committee tonight has two items, and these are in for the layover. So item number one is SU 0224, special use permit for a wedding reception facility. It's in County Board District 2. That got approved unanimously by both the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Zoning Committee. Number two is SU 0324. It's a partner piece to the first one there, special use permit as well for vacation rental renewal in the Ag District. Same location, same owner. And once again, the same results. Zoning Board of Appeals condition was unanimous, and the Zoning Committee was approval unanimous. Both of those come with conditions. So they're in for a first reading, but if there's no objection, I'd like to suspend rules and vote on both of them this evening.
There's a motion to suspend on item 1 and number 2. Is there a second? Mr. Guevara seconds that. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules for items number 1 and 2 under zoning this evening? Very good. Rules are suspended.
Okay, well, I would like to take them both at once then and approve number 1 and number 2, if that's all right.
Motion to approve number 1 and number 2 under zoning. Do we have a second by Mr. Mark? Is any discussion from the chair?
Not from the chair, but a reminder, these come with conditions, both of them. Okay?
Very good. Is there any board member discussion item number 1 and 2 under zoning committee? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to the passage of these special use permits? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Okay, following up here, Tuesday, May 14th is the next zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And following that, Wednesday, May 22nd, is the zoning committee. That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Economic Development Committee, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no report tonight, but we will convene a meeting this upcoming Monday, April 1st at 5:30 on the 3rd floor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Next is Operation Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Operations Committee has 5 items for this evening. The first is a resolution awarding purchase of X-ray equipment for bomb squad using CIP 2024 funds, and I so move.
Motion to approve by Mr. McDonald. Is there a second? Ms. Hansert seconds that motion. Is there any discussion by the chair?
No, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is a resolution awarding purchase of vehicles for the coroner's office using CIP 2024 funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald and second by Mr. Webster. Ms. Crosby, is there any discussion from the chair?
No, sir.
Any board member discussion on this item, this resolution? Very good. And there are board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding replacement of second-floor air handlers at Adult Probation Center using CIP 2024 funds, and I so move.
Motion to approve by Mr. McDonald and a second by Mr. Penny. Is there any chair discussion?
No, sir.
Board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding replacement of energy recovery ventilation unit at Adult Probation Center using CIP 2023 PSST funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. Is there a second by Mr. Hoffman? Is there any chair discussion, Mr. McDonald?
No, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final item is a resolution regarding the emergency response to the abandonment of asylum seekers in Winnebago County, and I so move.
We have a motion by Mr. McDonald. We have a second by Mr. Booker. Any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not from me, sir.
Board member discussion. Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank everyone who provided input in the development of this resolution. I know it might not meet everyone's expectations, but we did our best to make sure everyone was heard and that adjustments were made in accordance with the comments that were provided to us. I'd also like to make it clear, because the question was presented to me about why is this necessary, And it is a resolution. Its purpose is to communicate the perspective of the county board to the community. Essentially, what we're saying here to the public is that we're using their tax dollars legally and responsibly. And we're trying to respond to what is a potential emergency situation in a way that's humane. And I also want to make it clear that there's nothing in this resolution that it infringes on immigrants coming here of their own accord, using their own means. This is about government involvement in the support of immigration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fellers.
Can you hear me? Is this on? I just wanted to say that I share with the Republican caucus their frustration and concern for the situation. Mr. Gary Jury. Okay, there, right? Okay. I share with the Republican caucus their frustration and concern with the situation. Mayor Gary Jury said it well, actually, in a letter that he sent to the board. When he said that we do not have the resources to take on more financial responsibilities caused by the inaction of the federal government, nor would I ask our taxpayers and already burdened first responders to take on more responsibilities. I think that's said very well, and I agree with that. I think that it would be unkind of this county to pretend that we did have the resources to take on displaced migrants and those who have been trafficked. However, this resolution does nothing to actually address that situation. We do not have jurisdiction over federal immigration policy. This resolution is non-binding. It's not even a law. It's just a statement. And it's not a statement that achieves anything except for making members of our community feel unwelcome and unwelcome in our community. I also think that it's unnecessarily provocative to Springfield. We are a non-home rule county, which means that we are subject to the will of Springfield. And I see no benefit to admonishing them for something that is also not under their control. I don't want to make enemies in Springfield just to make political statements. And it's out of line with the values of Winnebago County. The last thing I wanted to say is that it's also redundant. We already have a policy in place. We just saw a presentation, and to the credit of our sheriff's department, to our airport workers, to the city, to the county, to our first responders. We responded seamlessly to the situation, and there's nothing to say that we wouldn't respond to it again. And so I'd like to ask that my fellow board members vote no on this resolution and vote yes for kindness and yes for financial responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fellers. Was it Ms. Gorel?
Thank you, Chairman. With Mr. Brass coming and telling us what they're already doing, and they already have a place that the people will be going to, I don't see any reason why we need this. I do agree, though, with Lori Thompson that we should be open to emergency things as she talked. She is a forensic scientist. She's been working for children, and those are the ones we really have to worry about, because we don't know how some of those children get here, and there might be our own children that this would have to involve. So I'm going to be voting no on this. There has to be more to it than this. You just don't turn people away. Remember, someday you might be the ones that'll be turned away from another country too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gorel. Board member discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Salgado.
So yeah, I do want to appreciate the hard work that was done in this, because from the beginning, I'll just be honest, from the beginning, when this was proposed, there was confusion, hey, they don't want to accept any asylum seekers, et cetera, et cetera. So I do appreciate all the hard work that went into, and I think they took into account all that information, particularly what was the reason, the purpose for the resolution itself. With that being said, that was one of the pieces that gave clarity, which was the asylum, putting these guys out in the landing zones, transporting them over there, spending that if they get abandoned here. So I do appreciate that. But once again, and I appreciate yourself, Mr. Chairman, bringing Trent Brass at our meeting, our first operations meeting. That completely, settled my nerves in the sense that we do have a plan in place, right, from that perspective. And, you know, hearing Trent Brass explain with the sheriff and so forth, the law enforcement, you know, making sure there's public health safety out there for these individuals, that they don't get run over if they're walking on the streets, et cetera, it made perfect sense to me. So once that came to light, I started to question the resolution itself, its purpose. I know that there are constituents out there that have that fear, you know, that they're gonna suck up some of the resources, et cetera. It's a valid point and everything from that nature. My district, and I can speak personally from this, my district, I have a lot of refugees, Sudanese, Vietnamese, Filipinos, you name it, they're in my district, right? And so I haven't seen any issues where, you know, they've started to dry up some of the services. Now, when you see 2,000 or plus, that becomes a crisis, right? Where do we house them, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand the dynamics on that. But from a principal purposes, Mr. Trent Brass explained, we do have a process, we do have a plan in place. And therefore, once again, as I stated in operations, I don't think it's necessary for this resolution. For me, it's just an opinion, perspective on shedding light on the problem, which is a national problem out there. Now, I've asked also, the prudent thing we can do is, you know, call our congressmen, write letters, pester them as much as possible. So hopefully, you know, the Congress can pass, you know, immigration reform of some sort, change Title 42, implement it, you know, take it away, whatever the case may be. They can decide on that at a Congress level and a national level. And that's where, you know, from my perspective, I don't want to get into that. I think we have a plan in place. If there was an ordinance that we would pass on the plan that we currently have in existing, I think that would be more viable, give, you know, reassurance to everybody and the citizens that we're doing the best we can to get these individuals into the landing zones and get the services they need. And, you know, hopefully, you know, within our community, they're not, you know, sucking some of the resources that it's kind of explained. So just wanted to bring that up because I know and thank everybody for working as well. And Mr. Arena has mentioned on that. So I appreciate all the hard work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Mr. Arena?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak again. I just want to reiterate and clarify what this is. It's a statement to the public about what we are doing, which is following state guidance along the lines of the presentation that Mr. Brass gave to us tonight, and what we're not doing, right? We're not expending tax dollars for anything beyond what the state has advised us to do in the event that asylum seekers are abandoned here. So people who are traveling with the intent of getting resources provided by the state find themselves in Winnebago County, which is not where they intended to be. So it doesn't force people who don't want to leave town, right? It just offers them assistance to go on to the landing zone per state guidance. I don't want this to be mischaracterized in any way. You know, Mr. Salgado makes the point that we have diverse population of immigrants living in Winnebago County, and they're welcome here. Any of these people who come here of their own accord and aren't seeking any assistance from Winnebago County government are free to do that. You know, I don't want the public to be left with the impression that, you know, the people voting in favor of this are somehow against immigration. As I've said in committee, my father's an immigrant. Many of my mother's side of my family were immigrants, so I, you know, favor legal immigration. That's not what we're doing. And I do think it's valuable to make it clear to the public exactly what's going on, because you'll see every time something comes up related to immigration, speculation happens on social media, accusations of, you know, they're doing this, they're doing that, most of which is untrue. This is trying to assure the public of exactly what their government is doing with their tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Board member discussion. Mr. Salgado.
Just, you know, I appreciate Mr. Arena's point, but I also want to make it clear, right? That I'm not saying that we're the resolution itself, and I think that's what we were trying to get to clarify that it's, if they're abandoned here, then we can move them into where they're intended to move to, not forcing them. And that's exactly the intent, the process that we went through, right? Different drafts, different operation meetings was to get to that point. But from my perspective, as I alluded to, is we're already doing that. So to me, it's kind of like a moot point. I understand that you guys want to express one way or the other, but it's not the sentiment of the whole county board. That's where I'm coming from, right? And so from that perspective, I disagree on that point. But ultimately, I think we went through the process, various drafts, various, iterations of it, and I think we got to that point. But to me, personally, I don't think it's necessary from that aspect of it because we're already doing it. And that's all I wanted to say, not that, in my district, we're not allowing immigrants to stay here. No, that's not, I'm not arguing, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that we got to that point, and I do appreciate that we went through the process to get to that point because it wasn't there and there was confusion. You saw people coming up, different attorneys. I believe the city of Rockford, and, they had a seminar with the sheriff and state's attorney. I don't know who was present. I wasn't there, but there was discussion about that. So I do appreciate all that, and that's all I'm saying from my perspective, and I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further board member discussion? Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, I have some feelings about this that I want to express. And before I do, America is full of really neat immigration stories. The one that touches me the most is the fact that my grandmother, who immigrated here from Japan shortly after World War II, helped raise me. I could use chopsticks before I could use a fork. So this issue of immigration has touched me very much personally. And I think most reasonable Americans, most reasonable Winnebago County citizens are all for a legal immigration system where amounts of people come to this country and are able to assimilate into American society and culture. But I also think that most reasonable people in the country and in this county think that the current situation at the southern border is absolutely out of control. I ditto every single thing that Mrs. Thompson came and spoke tonight and said so eloquently and so tragically. And it seems, to her point about when you fund these things, it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And I think that you've seen, in essence, in this country develop over a long period of time, and it's getting worse at an increasing pace, is this illegal immigration industrial complex where all this money is being poured into these NGOs through state and federal governments. I mean, 3 years ago, I think the state spent a few million on this issue, and I think in the last budget it was closer to $680 million just in that short period of time. If you drive down I-90 just 60 minutes and enter Cook County, that county just appropriated $70 million towards its portion of this issue, what they're doing with these encampments in Chicago. And I've been watching these city council meetings pretty adamantly, pretty vigilantly, and all the public comments of people coming to the podium to give their opinion on this issue it's predominantly minority individuals who are crying out to their elected officials that they are experiencing an incredible amount of issues there. This mass concentration of people, I mean, you don't need to be a statistician to know that it brings a lot of issues with it. And I feel horrible for them. Their neighborhoods, their parks are completely transformed. And yes, there's crime. Of course there is. With high concentrations like that of unvetted individuals, of course, there's all kinds of issues. And I am sincerely saddened that what it seems to be in this issue is that it's devolving into a partisan issue. I don't understand why that is the case. But because we are a major county in this state, because we have a major airport in this state, and because we're so close to Cook County and Chicago, I do think it's extremely relevant to, yes, make statements to constituents that are extremely concerned. This is the biggest issue in America right now, right? So there's a lot of curiosity about it. And I am going to offer up an amendment to this resolution that I think is a good statement to make about how we want things to go in Winnebago County. That yes, I mean, we do support, obviously, immigration legally and at a number that people can assimilate. But, you know, what's happening in this state, it's getting out of control, and I think most people think that. So if you go to the resolution, in the paragraph that discusses the money, currently it reads, now therefore, or I'm sorry, it reads, whereas Winnebago County has determined that it will not utilize its taxpayer-funded reserves, and it goes on from there. I would like to amend that to say, whereas Winnebago County has determined that it will not seek, nor will it accept any state or federal tax dollars, and then it will go on to say, and it will not utilize its taxpayer-funded resources, and so on and so forth. And at the end of that paragraph, I'd like to put a period at the end of the word emergency and state that this paragraph shall be interpreted as Winnebago County's official position in opposition to the establishment of, quote, migrant camps, end quote, in Winnebago County. And I would like that to apply also to the where, to now therefore be resolved. The wording is the same, so it can transcribe right down there in similar fashion for what I believe is in the best interest of the safety of the citizens of Winnebago County. And I so move.
So we have a motion to amend by Mr. Sweeney. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Thompson seconds that motion. Is there any discussion on the amendment that's before you? It was read in by Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Neighbors, your hand up?
So with that amendment, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with that amendment given, so if we do get any immigrants here, asylum seekers, with us saying that we don't want to accept any money from the state or the federal government, that means we're going to foot the bill ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Sweeney.
No, what I'm saying is, I guess, is that we would adhere to the plan stipulated by the state of Illinois government to help people get to the landing sites in Chicago.
But we still receive money from them to help with that plan, right?
No, we don't. We do not get money from the government to assist people to get to the landing zones.
Come out of the county budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Brass informed us that the state does not intend to reimburse us for money we spend in that emergency situation. However, we put a paragraph in there to say we're still going to ask for that money because in other type of emergency situations, we do get reimbursed or have an opportunity to get reimbursed for some. So there's this conflict that exists right now where the state has said you may drive, continue their transportation to Chicago, but we're not going to help you pay for that. We feel that we should still ask to be paid that, but we've been informed that they would probably say no. That would be a fight for another day. Thank you.
Ms. Goro.
Thank you. May I ask the sheriff a question, please? The night that that airplane landed in here, was it not an emergency type, or was it a planned that plane land here?
It was an unplanned situation that came on it was like, we found out during the afternoon of December 30th, and then we put the plan in place, and they were supposed to land around 9:30, and it finally landed around 1:30 in the morning, December 31st.
If you had not accepted that, what would have happened to that plane?
I'm sorry?
If you had not accepted that plan or put a plan together, what would have happened to that plane? Where would it have gone?
We didn't even consider it. We accepted it. Myself and Trent put the plan in place to transport them with the buses, and then I had my crime deterrence unit escort them to McHenry County line. Now, we never knew that they had bus tickets. They never told us, train tickets. They never told us they had train tickets. So when they got into the suburbs, they went to different train stations and dropped them off to go to the landing zone.
If we had not accepted them here, what would have happened?
We didn't even consider it. Well, yeah, we knew that the plan was coming, and we put the plan in place.
And who paid for the expenses of the buses?
I believe it was the Texas that did it.
The governor of Texas.
I want to thank you for having the foresight to do what was best for this county, instead of just letting that plane drop someplace where nobody even knew had a place to land. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Ms. Fellers?
I'd like to ask if Mr. Sweeney could please, in a short layman's, repeat what the amendment is.
Mr. Sweeney, could you repeat
If you could just
please?
summarize it, please.
Oh, yes, sorry. So I'll just do it once. There's two spots, right? There's the whereas, and then there's the now therefore be it resolved section of the resolution that discusses the finances. It is that Winnebago County has determined that it will not seek nor will it accept any state or federal tax dollars, and it will not utilize its taxpayer fund reserves. Goes on from there, and then at the end of the paragraph, a period after the word emergency, and then the sentence, this paragraph shall be interpreted as Winnebago County's official position in opposition to the establishment of, quote, migrant camps, end quote, in Winnebago County, period.
Please.
I have a follow-up. I wanted to ask the state's attorney, please. In a later paragraph, there is a quote that says, the county board and the county of Winnebago will not utilize its taxpayer-funded services, including any available monies in its emergency fund, for long-term housing, medical, or other needs of asylum seekers, except that the county may, within its discretion and subject to further board action, specifically in the case of an emergency situation where asylum seekers are abandoned in Winnebago County and without means of transportation, utilize any available general fund monies that were allocated incidentally contingent through the ordinances, and it goes on from there. Is that a direct conflict with the amendment?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, the first part of the amendment is specifically related to state and federal dollars, and that we wouldn't use our reserves, but we use the exception that under state law and under our county's purchasing ordinance, we can use it for certain emergency situations. So if the county were to be faced with another plane landing or something like that, we can make sure we comply with the county's code and the purchasing ordinance to utilize our emergency funding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fellers. I'm going to go to Mr. Lindmark first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what we're missing here is, this is for large groups, planes landing. We talk about the citizens. We also have to remember, we don't have a landing zone for these people. We can't provide for them. So along with the citizens, we're also, protecting these immigrants. And I wish, a little bit off topic, I wish that we would care as much about our homeless in this state and our mental health centers and our people that need mental health services than we are about immigrants. We can throw around $700 million or so on immigrants, but how many people are living in the street in this county alone? Where would that money have gone? They shut down Singer years ago. We don't have anywhere for them to house right now, but we can certainly set up facilities all around Chicago to house immigrants and forget about our own citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
The community is mourning after the death of...
Whoa, geez.
Thank you. When we have disasters here, like big floods, we do accept government money to take care of it. We don't ask who the person is, we just take care of it. We take so much government money in here. I don't know what your problem is about not wanting to receive any government money of any kind. Would someone explain that to me?
Mr. Sweeney, you want to answer the question?
Yeah, well, it's very simple in my mind that what you're seeing all over the country in larger cities are these migrant encampments being set up and the issues that arise thereafter. And as a matter of opinion, I do not believe that Winnebago County should be in that situation at all. And that is why I put this amendment in there.
I just have a, I'm sorry, I just have a problem with that
Please address-
because we have
Ms.
disasters
Goro,
all
Ms.
over.
Goro, when you speak, this way it doesn't get confrontational, just face the chair.
The thing is, we have disasters. We've had more disasters this year in the United States than we have ever had between fires and floods and tornadoes and everything else. Had it not been for the government reimbursing these people and helping them through all this, they never would make it. In fact, some of them aren't going to make it. And, you know, I always thought we were truly very human, loving people. But I'm getting to see that we aren't really with some of the things that we come up with. I would just like to get this over with because we would not have had any discussion like this if an airplane hadn't landed at our airport. That's what started all this. An airplane landed at our airport. They took the people off, they put them on a bus, and they went to the Chicago area. I still don't understand why we're going through all of this when we're really not even involved in it. Thank God our sheriff took care of what he took care of. Did it cost you anything, Mr.? No. And so I just don't get this. I just don't. They're not coming by busloads here and getting out and staying here. So we don't have to worry about homeless. It's all taken care of. Why didn't you do the homework before you decided to do this? Answer that.
Mr. Sweeney, and then I'm going to move to Ms. Crosby.
You're asking me directly? I don't really understand your question, but overall, what I would say is that, take 10 years ago, just as a random number, there would not have been a chartered plane that landed at a Rockford airport at all, right?
10 years ago?
This is for this reason, right? Being sent from another state up here, people in the tens of thousands, right? So this is a newer phenomena that is occurring and it's growing, right? That's why 3 years ago, as I stated, the state of Illinois spent roughly $3 million on the issue. Now it's spending almost $1 billion on the issue. It's a growing issue, and it's a disaster that, for some reason I don't understand, the state is asking for to have occur to its own people and its own citizens. I don't understand that, but I'm a representative here in Winnebago County. We do have the airport. It's a big thing. We're 60 minutes outside of Cook County. This issue is, I was just in Chicago yesterday. Took my kids to the Museum of Science and Industry. I mean, it's all over the place, right? It's transforming fundamentally neighborhoods in the city of Chicago, and the citizens are extremely concerned. And ironically, it's the most vulnerable citizens in Chicago that are being affected by it, which is a whole other discussion for another day. But I don't want that to happen here in Winnebago County. That's my homework.
Ms. Crosby?
I call the question.
Okay. We have a motion to call the question. We have a second by Mr. Guevara. All in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I think the Indians didn't put us back on that boat. You know that.
What'd she say? I didn't catch that.
Okay, so this is on the amendment, for the approval of the amendment. I'm going to do a roll call on this. Clerk, can you call the roll on the amendment?
Thank you, Chairman. We will start with Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Penny, Mr. Salgado, Mr. Scroll, Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Webster, Mr. Arena, Mr. Booker, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers, Mrs. Gorel, Mr. Guevara, Ms. Hansard, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Chairman, 12 yes, 7 no, 1 board member absent.
Very good, the amendment is approved. Is there a motion to approve the amended resolution? Got Ms. Crosby and Mr. Penny seconds that motion to approve the amended resolution. Is there any discussion? Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we take the final vote, I don't know what our standard procedure is, but we have letters of support submitted by the City of Loves Park and the Village of McChesney Park. I'd like those letters to be part of the record on this issue. Thank you.
Very good, and that's for Village of McChesney Park and Loves Park, correct? Mr. Sweeney?
I'd also like to state for the record that I did not receive a letter, but I did receive a phone call today from Mayor Peterson of Rockton, and they are also in support.
Very good, thank you. So we have a motion by Ms. Crosby and a second by Mr. Penny to approve the amended resolution. Any further discussion? Are there any board members opposed? Okay, let's do a roll call. Madam Clerk. I knew that.
Thank you, Chairman. We start with Mr. Neighbors.
No.
Mr. Penny. Mr. Salgado. Mr. Scroll. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Webster. Mr. Arena.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mrs. Crosby. Ms. Fellers. Mrs. Gorel.
No.
Mr. Guevara.
Yes.
Ms. Hansard. Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Lindmark. Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Thank you all. Chairman, that's 12 yes, 7 no, 1 still absent.
Very good, the resolution has been approved. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Webster, Public Works Committee? Oh, Mr. Webster?
Eight. I apologize.
Okay. What was the final vote?
1, 2, 3,
Still
4,
passes,
5,
correct?
6, 7,
Yep.
8 no's.
So just the record, it was 11 yes, 8 no. Yes, Mr. Webster.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just make a comment before Keith stepped down from the podium there. I just want to say that the vote we took tonight, a lot of people out there were waiting for us just to do something. So I've heard from a lot of people, what are you guys at the board going to do about that? What's the county going to do? So going back to the question, or the statement that Mr. Sweeney made about what's going on in Chicago, that's what a lot of people referred to. They said, look 60 minutes to the east of us and see what's happening there with their finances being eaten up by having the camp for the migrant camps, or whatever the name is we want to hang on it there. And so these people are hopping mad there in Chicago. Well, people here, people all around are seeing that. And so people wanted to know here, what are you guys going to do? So doing nothing was not something. We had to do something. So therefore, we had a resolution, like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Mr. Tassoni?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Your Public Works Committee brings forth a plethora of items this evening. First item would be Resolution 24-006, and it's a resolution of award of bid for mowing and vegetation control, and I'd so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni. We have a second by Ms. Hansard. Discussion from the chair, Mr. Tassoni?
None, thank you, unless there's
Board
any
member
questions.
discussion on this award of bid? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to awarding this bid? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is Resolution 24-007, and it's a resolution declaring surplus Highway Department equipment and authorizing the sale of. I would so move.
Motion by Mr. Tassoni, and we have a second by Mr. Guevara. Discussion by Mr. Tassoni.
None. This is just annual housekeeping. It allows the County Highway Department to send vehicles to auction.
Very good. Board member discussion. Ms. Hansard? Oh, okay. Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read the next two in simultaneously, and I move them together. First is 24-008, and it's award a bid for the 2024 county general letting. The second would be 24-009, which is a resolution authorizing the appropriation of motor fuel tax funds for the maintenance of county highway. And those two go together. They are annual housekeeping items.
Very good. So he has a motion to approve number 4 and number 5
And
resolution.
I would move both. Sorry if I didn't say so.
Okay, moved for both, and we got Mr. Penny seconds that motion. Is there any board member discussion or any chair discussion on those two items? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye. No? It's approved. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just
Next two
throwing you
items,
guys off.
once again, I move simultaneously and read them both in. They are just pass-through funds that the county administers for the townships. First is 24-010, and it's award a bid for the 2024 Township Seal Coat Program. It's miscellaneous townships. And the second would be 24-011, which is award a bid for Cherry Valley Township and Village of Cherry Valley for the South Mulford Resurfacing Project. And I would move those two items.
Motion to approve by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Penny. Any board member discussion on item number 6 and 7? All right, hearing none, are there any board members opposed to the approval of number 6 or 7? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is a resolution 24-012, and it's a resolution authorizing Phase 1 engineering services agreement with Fairgram for On Center Road from Riverside Boulevard to Latham Road. And I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Booker. Mr. Tassoni, any discussion?
None, unless there's questions.
Mr. Neighbors, you had to. Oh, I'm sorry. Any board member discussion on this resolution? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is Resolution 24-013, and it's a resolution authorizing a Phase 2 engineering services agreement with Chastain and Associates, LLC, for the improvement of East Riverside Boulevard from Material Avenue to Sage Drive. And I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Neighbors. Sure. Is there any board member discussion? Mr. Arena.
Is Mr. Molina? Mr. Molina, you and I had a conversation some time ago about the possibility of having a stoplight at the corner of Sage and Riverside. I'm wondering, is that part of this engineering, and is it, well, if that were to happen, what process would have to unfold for it to happen?
Mr. Molina.
Can he speak to a microphone? Mr. Molina? Mr. Molina, can he
Yeah.
speak to a microphone, please?
Sorry about that. It's not part of this engineering agreement, because that, this agreement is for what the state and the feds have funded, and that did not include the Sage Drive intersection. The improvements go up to Sage Drive, but it does not include the intersection. Now, for traffic signals, we will have to do a separate project. Now, we could include it in this project, but it would have to be paid with local funds.
So it couldn't be funded as part of whatever funding source we have for the rest of the project?
Not at this time. Now, if we were to include it, it would probably just delay the project a few months. And the reason for that is because the intersection design studies that were done as part of Phase 1 were for Forest Hills and Alpine Road. It did not include Sage Drive.
Okay. Well, just for the record and for everyone's knowledge, a citizen who knows that I'm on the board had contacted me about the possibility of having a stoplight put at that intersection, and I happen to use that intersection frequently in my travels for work, and I know at times it can be very difficult to cross the road there, so My personal experience is it would be beneficial to have a stoplight. I don't want to delay the project, or, I know this is a very large project, but whatever we could do to at least explore that possibility, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
If I could, is that on? If I could just add, we are also doing a corridor study for the entire Riverside Boulevard, and that does not only include the county's jurisdiction, but it also includes Loves Parks and the city of Rockford's, and that's looking at every intersection and all the traffic signals. So as part of that study, we might come up with, that recommendation to put signals at Sage. Right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Molina. Thank you, Mr. Arena. Any further discussion on item number 9? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present, Madam Clerk. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final 3 items, I'll move simultaneously, and I'll read them all in and speak to them for a minute. But the first is 24-014, and it's a resolution supporting application to rehabilitate the Meridian Road Bridge over the Pecatonica River. The second is 24-015, which is a resolution supporting application for the extension of the Baxter Road water main on the west side of I-39. The third is 24-016, and it's a resolution supporting an application to address, I'm going to say PFAS because it's a real long word, but it's basically contaminants in water and soil and other things. And I would move those 3 items and speak to them.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Motions to approve. We've got Ms. Hansard, Mr. Penny. Approval of the number 10, 11, and 12. The motion and second. Any discussion on 10, 11, or 12?
Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, thank you. These are just resolutions in support, asking our U.S. representatives to help us with some grant money.
Mr. Neighbors.
Along with that, I would like to also give recognition, I don't know if the whole board know, but getting that grant money was part of the work of the Legislative and Lobbying Committee and the lobbyists that we hired to do that.
Correct. Very good. Thanks for reminding everyone of that. Any other discussion on number 10, 11, or 12 for these resolutions? Are there any board members opposed to number 10, 11, or 12? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and happy Easter and safe travels to all. Thank you.
Happy Easter. Thank you. We have Mr. Lindmark coming up to the bench.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 resolutions tonight. The first resolution is renewing the annual maintenance agreement for X-ray scanners, and I so move.
Motion by Mr. Lindmark, and we have a second by Ms. Goro. Discussion, Mr. Lindmark?
Not for me.
Any board member discussion on the resolution? Is that your hand up? No? Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. The X-rays are approved.
Our second resolution tonight is supporting the application for funding of an integrated case management platform for the Winnebago County, Illinois court system, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark, second by Ms. Goro. Mr. Thompson, any board member discussion? Mr. Neighbors.
I'd like to point out another one of the lobbyists, legislative lobbyists and projects that we got help with. That's all.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. Further board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
That's all I have this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You did a great job.
You remembered my name.
It's only been 3.5 years. All right, unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any new business in front of the board this evening? Mr. Penny.
Yeah, I do want to publicly acknowledge the Winnebago County Animal Control. Me and Mr. Sweeney were able to do a great tour today and get to see some of the improvements that this board approved for construction and improvements over there, and got to see the job that they do firsthand. I appreciate Miss Stacy for the hard work that she has over there, controlling, or not controlling all the animals, and then trying to manage that task along with her staff. And so I don't want to take any words from Mr. Sweeney, but I also want to give kind of a precursor to some verbiage hopefully we'll have soon crafted, where Ms. Vaughn has been instrumental on helping kind of address a loophole in the county that is going to be pointed towards animals that get off of people's property and onto others' properties. And so it was good to talk to the workers on site over there. It was especially the ones that have to go and show up when animal control is essentially called, and the work that they do. So I appreciate all the staff over there and Ms. Vaughn for starting the process of us crafting some language. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. Mr. Scroll.
I'd like to thank those board members that have reached out to me over the past couple days and extend my personal gratitude to the agencies that responded to the events that unfolded in my district and my neighborhood yesterday. And as we keep the victims and their families in our thoughts and our hearts, also please keep those first responders, those police officers who had to witness firsthand in real time this tragedy, and those 911 telecommunicators who listened to it in real time over the telephone. So God bless those people.
Thank you, Mr. Scroll. Good point. Mr. Sweeney.
If I could build on what Mr. Scroll just said too, and I've gotten permission from Sheriff Caruana to use his name, is that also our very own Deputy Michael Gambino is the officer that, through what I hear are some incredible heroics and incredible acts of physicality, apprehended and saved the lives, I'm sure, of maybe potentially more people in this incident. But our very own Michael Gambino was the first responder, the police officer, the sheriff's deputy that apprehended the perpetrator. And so if you see him, shake his hand, he's a hero.
Of course. Thank you. Sheriff, did you want to say anything on that?
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Scroll and Mr. Sweeney, and all the prayers and thoughts and prayers to the people, the folks in that area. It was a team effort, and again, we were able to get it taken care of, and Michael did an excellent job. I know we went through the body cam situation a while back, but it just showed exactly what was going on, and he did a tremendous job and was able to apprehend them. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Goro?
I also want to mention the fact that I've watched the whole thing on television, and it really didn't take that long for them to apprehend the person that did all this, and all of the different agencies that were there was unbelievable. I also want to thank the Rockford School District and Rosecrans for their immediately coming on the scene and offered to take care of, I think it's today and tomorrow, is it? Whoever needs help. I think that's wonderful that they just stepped right up. Everything just happened all at one time. And it just, I was so proud to see our people up there and you up there talking. It happened fast, and you did it fast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Goro. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to do this because I don't believe Mr. Lindmark will. Like Mr. Scroll said, it's the Lindmark Foundation is there to take care of first responders, whether you're the police, fire, telecommunicator, the coroner's office. I know Mr. Penny last night was at a fire chief's dinner. I know all of us as elected officials have contacts with our fire departments and law officers and everything else. The purpose of the Lindmark Foundation is to provide mental health for the first responders. It's anonymous and it's free. So if you come across people that need it, please reach out to the Lindmark Foundation. They've got a website, they have a Facebook page. If you find somebody struggling or know somebody from Mr. Scroll, if you know somebody from this event, please drive them to the Lindmark Foundation for help. Don't let them go through it alone.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other new business? Mr. Lindmark.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better than Chris did. That was outstanding. I just want to thank all the first responders. Keith, thanks for throwing that out there. You're right. I wouldn't have done that. Try to do it through Facebook and website and phone calls, but much appreciated. Thank you, and God bless everyone for this Good Friday and Easter Sunday.
Thank you, Mr. Lindmark. Any further new business? Announcements and communications. Ms. Gummo.
I'm too tired to say anything but the items listed below were received as correspondence. Thank you.
You've done very well. I know Mr. Webster's waving the fan. Motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Thompson. All in favor,